The desert heat shimmered off the rocky terrain as Staff Sergeant Maria Rodriguez adjusted her position behind the Barrett M82A1 rifle. At 26, she had already endured more skepticism about her abilities than most soldiers faced in entire careers. The comments followed her everywhere. Women don't have the upper body strength for long-range precision shooting, they can't handle the psychological pressure of taking human lives, they're too emotional for sniper work. She had heard it all from drill instructors, fellow Marines, and even some officers who should have known better. But here she was, perched on a limestone outcrop in the mountains of Afghanistan, her eye pressed to the scope of a .50 caliber sniper rifle, watching through crosshairs as insurgents prepared an ambush that could kill dozens of American soldiers. The irony wasn't lost on her that the same men who questioned her capabilities were depending on those very skills to keep them alive. Maria had grown up in East Los Angeles, the daughter of a mechanic and a nurse who had immigrated from Mexico before she was born. Her father, Roberto, had served briefly in the army before an injury ended his military career, but he never lost his respect for military service or his belief that his daughter could accomplish anything she set her mind to. When neighborhood kids teased Maria for being too small, too quiet, or too focused on books instead of boys, Roberto would take her to the local shooting range where he worked part-time as a safety instructor. "Mija," he would tell her as she steadied a .22 rifle against her shoulder, "size doesn't matter when you understand physics and practice discipline. The smallest person can control the most powerful weapon if they respect it and master the fundamentals." Those early lessons in patience, breath control, and sight alignment would prove prophetic years later when Marine recruiters came to her high school. Maria had originally planned to study engineering in college, but the September 11th attacks during her senior year changed everything. She felt a calling to serve her country that was stronger than any academic ambition. Her parents were terrified when she announced her intention to join the Marines, but they also understood the sense of duty that drove their daughter. Roberto especially recognized the determination in Maria's eyes, the same focus he had seen when she mastered difficult shots at the range. Boot camp at Parris Island was brutal for everyone, but Maria faced additional challenges that her male counterparts didn't. Drill instructors questioned whether she had the physical and mental toughness for Marine infantry, despite her consistently high scores on marksmanship tests. During the Crucible, the final test of Marine training, Maria carried a fellow recruit's pack for the last 5 miles when he collapsed from heat exhaustion, proving that determination could overcome physical limitations. Her first assignment took her to Camp Pendleton, where she excelled in advanced infantry training. It was there that Gunnery Sergeant James Carter first noticed her exceptional shooting abilities. Carter was a legendary figure in Marine sniper circles, having served 3 tours in Iraq and trained dozens of scout snipers. He watched Maria consistently outshoot Marines who had been handling rifles their entire lives, and he recognized something special in her approach to marksmanship. "Rodriguez," Carter called her aside after a particularly impressive performance on the 1,000-yard range. "Have you ever considered sniper school?" Maria was stunned. Female Marines were technically eligible for sniper training, but in practice, very few were ever selected. The Scout sniper community was one of the most exclusive and traditionally male-dominated specialties in the military. "I don't know if I'm qualified, Gunny," Maria replied honestly. Carter studied her for a moment. "Qualification isn't about what other people think you can do. It's about what you can actually accomplish when everything depends on it. Your shooting speaks for itself. The question is whether you want to take it to the next level." The Scout Sniper course at Quantico was 13 weeks of the most demanding training Maria had ever experienced. She was one of only 2 women in a class of 48 Marines, and the other woman dropped out during the second week. The physical demands were brutal: long-distance land navigation with heavy packs, extended periods in uncomfortable shooting positions, and survival exercises that pushed students to their limits. But the psychological pressure was even more intense. Instructors deliberately created stressful situations to test students' ability to make precise shots under extreme pressure. They would fire weapons near students' ears while they were trying to shoot, create artificial time pressures, and constantly question their decisions and capabilities. "Rodriguez, you sure you can handle this?" Instructor Staff Sergeant Williams would ask loudly during shooting exercises. "This isn't a game. Real snipers make life-and-death decisions. You think you can kill someone from 800 yards away?" Maria learned to block out the verbal harassment and focus entirely on her craft. She studied ballistics tables until she could calculate bullet drop and wind compensation in her head. She practiced estimating distances by eye until she could accurately judge ranges within 5 yards from half a mile away. Most importantly, she developed the mental discipline to control her breathing, heart rate, and emotions even under extreme stress. The stalking exercises were particularly challenging. Students had to approach within 200 yards of instructors using powerful spotting scopes, take a shot at a target, and then move to a new position without being detected. It required not just marksmanship skills but field craft, camouflage, and an understanding of how to use terrain and vegetation for concealment. Maria excelled at stalking because her smaller size allowed her to use cover that larger Marines couldn't access. She could move through spaces between rocks or under vegetation that would expose taller students. What some had seen as a physical limitation became a tactical advantage in the field. The mental challenges of sniper training extended beyond marksmanship. Students had to learn to observe enemy positions for hours without moving, memorizing details about personnel, equipment, and activities that could be crucial to mission success. They studied the psychology of long-range shooting, learning to compartmentalize the emotional impact of taking human lives while maintaining the clarity needed for precise shooting. A sniper's greatest weapon isn't the rifle, Gunnery Sergeant Carter would tell his students. It's the 6 inches between your ears. Everything else is just equipment. Maria graduated third in her class, earning her the coveted Scout Sniper military occupational specialty. She was only the 7th woman in Marine Corps history to complete the course, and her achievement made waves throughout the military community. Some celebrated it as proof that women could succeed in any military role, while others remained skeptical about whether she could perform effectively in combat. Her first deployment to Afghanistan in 2009 was with the 2nd Battalion, 8th Marines. The battalion was assigned to Helmand Province, one of the most dangerous areas in the country where Taliban forces regularly attacked coalition convoys and forward operating bases. Maria was assigned to a scout sniper team led by Staff Sergeant Mike Thompson, a veteran of multiple deployments who had initially been skeptical about working with a female sniper. "Look, Rodriguez," Thompson had told her during their first briefing, "I don't care what you did in training. This is the real deal. People die when snipers make mistakes. I need to know you can handle the pressure when bullets are flying in both directions." Maria understood his concerns. Combat was different from training, no matter how realistic the exercises. The knowledge that enemy fighters were actively trying to kill you added a psychological dimension that couldn't be replicated in peacetime. But she was confident in her abilities and determined to prove herself. Her first combat mission came during the 3rd week of deployment. Intelligence had identified a Taliban commander who was coordinating attacks against coalition forces from a compound in a remote valley. Maria's team was tasked with providing overwatch for an infantry assault on the compound, eliminating any enemy fighters who tried to escape or reinforce the position. The team moved into position before dawn, establishing a hide site on a ridge overlooking the target compound from 600 yards away. Maria set up her M40A5 sniper rifle, a bolt-action .308 caliber weapon that was the standard sniper rifle for Marine Scout snipers. She spent the pre-dawn hours studying the compound through her scope, memorizing the layout and identifying potential escape routes. When the assault began at first light, Maria watched through her scope as Marines advanced on the compound. Suddenly, she spotted 3 Taliban fighters attempting to escape through a back entrance, carrying what appeared to be important documents or equipment. "I have 3 military-age males exiting the rear of the compound," Maria reported calmly over the radio. "They appear to be carrying sensitive materials." "You have clearance to engage," came the response from the team leader. Maria's first combat shot was at a distance of 640 yards in challenging wind conditions. She carefully calculated the necessary adjustments, controlled her breathing, and squeezed the trigger with the same deliberate precision she had practiced thousands of times in training. The bullet struck the lead fighter center mass, dropping him immediately. The other 2 fighters began running in a zigzag pattern, making them more difficult targets. Maria worked her bolt action smoothly, chambering a fresh round while tracking the second fighter through her scope. Her second shot was more challenging, taken at a moving target at nearly 700 yards, but it found its mark with the same deadly precision. The third fighter had taken cover behind a low stone wall, but Maria could see portions of his body through gaps in the stones. She waited patiently for him to expose himself, understanding that rushed shots often meant missed opportunities. When he finally tried to move to better cover, Maria was ready. Her third shot ended the threat. 3 targets down, Maria reported matter-of-factly, though her heart was racing from the adrenaline of her first combat engagement. Staff Sergeant Thompson, who had been observing through a spotting scope, was impressed despite himself. "Damn fine shooting, Rodriguez. Clean and professional." The The successful mission marked the beginning of Maria's reputation as one of the most effective snipers in the battalion. Over the following months, she participated in dozens of operations, providing precision fire support that saved countless American lives. Her confirmed kill count grew steadily, but more importantly, her presence often deterred enemy actions without requiring any shots to be fired. The psychological effect of sniper operations extended far beyond the immediate tactical impact. Enemy fighters knew that American snipers could strike accurately from distances that made retaliation impossible. The knowledge that a skilled marksman was watching often prevented attacks that might otherwise have been attempted. But Maria also faced ongoing skepticism from some quarters. Military journalists wrote articles questioning whether women had the emotional stability for sniper work. Some politicians used her service as a talking point in debates about women in combat roles. Even within the military community, there were those who attributed her success to luck or favorable circumstances rather than genuine skill. The criticism intensified after a controversial engagement in which Maria was forced to shoot a teenage Taliban fighter who was preparing to fire a rocket-propelled grenade at a Marine patrol. Critics argued that a male sniper might have found a non-lethal solution, while supporters pointed out that the split-second decision had saved American lives. People who have never been in combat love to second-guess the decisions made by those who have. Gunnery Sergeant Carter told Maria during a rare phone call. Your job isn't to make everyone comfortable with what you do. Your job is to bring your Marines home safely. As her deployment continued, Maria's reputation grew throughout the region. Enemy fighters began referring to her by a nickname that roughly translated to the Ghost, because of her ability to strike without warning from concealed positions. Intelligence reports indicated that Taliban commanders were specifically warning their fighters about the female American sniper who had been responsible for numerous casualties. The attention made Maria both proud and uncomfortable. She had never sought fame or recognition. She simply wanted to serve her country and prove that women could excel in any military role. But the notoriety also made her a target, with enemy forces actively seeking to identify and eliminate the sniper who had become such a threat to their operations. The mission that would define Maria's career began with routine intelligence briefing on a sunny morning in March 2010. Coalition forces had been tracking a high-value target for several weeks, a Taliban commander named Khalil Ahmad who was responsible for coordinating attacks across 3 provinces. Intelligence indicated that Ahmad would be meeting with several subordinate commanders at a remote compound to plan a major offensive against coalition forces. The meeting represented an opportunity to eliminate multiple enemy leaders in a single operation, but it also presented significant tactical challenges. The compound was located in a valley surrounded by high terrain that provided excellent observation positions for enemy forces. Any direct assault would likely result in heavy casualties, as attacking forces would be exposed while advancing across open ground. Instead, military planners decided to attempt a precision strike using a combination of air power and sniper fire. Maria's team would establish overwatch positions on surrounding ridges, providing intelligence on enemy positions and eliminating high-value targets if the opportunity presented itself. The operation required a 4-day movement through hostile territory to reach positions that would provide effective fields of fire on the target compound. Maria's team consisted of herself, Staff Sergeant Thompson as team leader and spotter, and 2 additional Marines who would provide security and communications support. The movement was conducted entirely at night to avoid detection, with the team covering only a few kilometers each evening before hiding during daylight hours. They carried everything they needed for the mission on their backs: food, water, ammunition, and specialized equipment that would allow them to remain hidden while conducting surveillance. On the 3rd night of movement, the team established their primary hide site on a ridge that provided clear lines of sight to the target compound at a distance of approximately 900 yards. It was at the extreme range of Maria's M40A5 rifle, but well within her demonstrated capabilities under ideal conditions. The hide site was carefully constructed using natural materials and camouflage techniques that would make it virtually invisible to enemy observation. Maria spent hours fine-tuning her shooting position, ensuring that she could engage targets throughout the compound without exposing herself or changing positions. The surveillance phase of the operation lasted 2 days, during which the team observed enemy activities and reported intelligence to higher headquarters. They identified guard positions, documented vehicle movements, and created detailed sketches of the compound layout that would be crucial for the planned airstrike. On the morning of the planned operation, Maria watched through her scope as several vehicles arrived at the compound. Through careful observation, the team identified multiple high-value targets, including what appeared to be Khalil Ahmad himself based on the deference shown to him by other fighters. But as the morning progressed, an unexpected development complicated the mission. A convoy of American vehicles appeared on a road that passed within sight of the compound, apparently conducting a routine patrol that had not been coordinated with the current operation. The convoy consisted of 3 armored vehicles carrying a visiting general and his security detail who were en route to inspect forward operating bases in the region. The general, Brigadier General Robert Hayes, was a respected combat leader who had served multiple tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. Through her scope, Maria could see Taliban fighters in the compound becoming agitated as they observed the American convoy. Several fighters began preparing weapons and moving toward positions that would allow them to engage the convoy as it passed. "We have a problem," Staff Sergeant Thompson observed through his spotting scope. "The convoy has no idea they're about to drive into an ambush." Maria tracked the various enemy positions through her scope, mentally calculating ranges and wind corrections that would be necessary for effective engagement. The convoy was still several minutes away, but the Taliban fighters were already moving into ambush positions. "Command, this is Sniper Team 1, Thompson called over the radio. "We have visual on multiple enemy fighters preparing to engage an American convoy. Request permission to intervene." The response was immediate. "Sniper Team 1, you are cleared to engage enemy forces threatening coalition personnel. Protect that convoy." Maria settled behind her rifle, selecting her first target carefully. The most immediate threat was a fighter carrying a rocket-propelled grenade who had positioned himself where he could destroy the lead vehicle in the convoy. The range was 900 yards in challenging wind conditions, but Maria had made similar shots during training in previous combat operations. She controlled her breathing, allowed her heart rate to slow, and gently squeezed the trigger. The .308 bullet crossed the distance in just over a second, striking the RPG gunner center mass and eliminating the primary threat to the convoy. The sound of the shot echoed across the valley, immediately alerting other Taliban fighters that they were under sniper fire. Several fighters began scanning the surrounding ridges, searching for the source of the deadly accurate fire. Maria worked her bolt action smoothly, chambering a fresh round while Thompson called out corrections and identified the next priority target. A second fighter had picked up the dropped RPG and was attempting to reach a firing position. "Wind has shifted slightly," Thompson reported. "Add 1 click right." Maria made the adjustment and fired again. Her second shot was equally accurate, dropping the second RPG gunner before he could threaten the convoy. The remaining Taliban fighters were now in complete disarray, some seeking cover while others attempted to return fire in the general direction they believed the shots had come from. But Maria's position was expertly concealed, and the extreme range made it virtually impossible for enemy fighters to effectively engage her. Meanwhile, the American convoy had finally realized they were under attack and had moved to defensive positions. But they were still vulnerable to enemy fire from multiple directions, and several Taliban fighters were attempting to maneuver closer to the coalition vehicles. Maria continued engaging targets with methodical precision, each shot carefully planned and executed. Her third shot eliminated a fighter who was attempting to flank the convoy from the north. Her fourth dropped another enemy combatant who was firing an automatic weapon from a concealed position. "Jesus Rodriguez," Thompson muttered in amazement. "You're shooting like it's a training exercise." But Maria was completely focused on the task at hand, her world reduced to the view through her rifle scope and the precise calculations necessary for long-range shooting. She had entered what snipers call the zone, a state of heightened concentration where everything except the immediate task fades away. Her fifth shot was perhaps the most critical of the engagement. Through her scope, she spotted a Taliban fighter who had managed to work his way to within 100 yards of the convoy while carrying what appeared to be a suicide vest. The fighter was preparing to charge the American position, potentially killing everyone in the convoy. The shot required split-second timing and absolute precision. Maria tracked the moving target, led him by the appropriate amount, and fired just as he broke cover to begin his attack. The bullet struck him in the head, ending the threat instantly and saving the lives of everyone in the convoy. The engagement lasted less than 10 minutes, but Maria had fired 8 shots and eliminated 7 enemy fighters, effectively breaking up the ambush and saving an American general and his entire security detail. The remaining Taliban fighters had either been killed or had fled the area, leaving behind weapons and equipment in their haste to escape. "Outstanding shooting, Rodriguez," Thompson said as they prepared to evacuate their position. "That was some of the finest marksmanship I've ever witnessed under combat conditions." The convoy was able to continue its mission without casualties, and General Hayes later personally requested a meeting with the sniper who had saved his life. When he learned that the marksman was a female Marine, his surprise was evident but quickly gave way to profound gratitude and respect. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez, General Hayes said during a brief ceremony at the Forward Operating Base, "Your actions today exemplify the finest traditions of the Marine Corps. You saved the lives of 8 American service members through skill, courage, and dedication to duty." The successful mission made Maria something of a celebrity within military circles, but it also intensified the debate about women in combat roles. Critics argued that the engagement proved nothing about female capabilities in general, while supporters pointed to it as evidence that individual merit should be the only consideration for military assignments. For Maria, the recognition was both gratifying and overwhelming. She had proven beyond any doubt that women could serve effectively as snipers, but she also understood that her success carried the weight of representing all women who might follow in her footsteps. In the months that followed, Maria completed her deployment with distinction, adding to her reputation as one of the most effective snipers in Afghanistan. She was awarded the Silver Star for her actions during the convoy rescue, making her one of the few women to receive such a high decoration for combat valor. When she returned to the United States, Maria was assigned to the Scout Sniper School at Quantico as an instructor, becoming the first woman to teach in the program. Her appointment was controversial, with some questioning whether female instructors could effectively train male Marines for combat. But Maria's approach to instruction was the same methodical, professional demeanor that had made her successful in combat. She focused entirely on technical skills and tactical principles, letting her knowledge and experience speak for themselves rather than trying to prove points about gender equality. "The fundamentals of marksmanship don't care whether you're male or female," she would tell her students. "Bullets follow the laws of physics, not social conventions. Master the fundamentals, respect the weapon, and practice until precision becomes instinct." Her classes consistently produced some of the highest-scoring graduates in the school's history, as Maria's emphasis on mental discipline and technical precision created marksmen who could perform effectively under any conditions. Years later, as women began serving in combat roles throughout the military, Maria's pioneering service was recognized as having helped pave the way for broader integration. But she remained focused on the practical aspects of military service rather than the political implications of her achievements. "I never set out to make a statement about women in combat," she would tell journalists. "I just wanted to serve my country and do my job to the best of my abilities. The fact that I happened to be female was incidental to the mission." But privately, Maria understood the significance of her service. She had proven that determination, skill, and dedication could overcome any prejudice or preconception. More importantly, she had demonstrated that American military effectiveness was enhanced when the best people were allowed to serve in the roles where they could contribute most effectively. The desert compound where she had made her career-defining shots was eventually abandoned by enemy forces, but local residents still spoke in hushed tones about the day when death came from the distant mountains with surgical precision. For Maria, it remained a reminder that military service was ultimately about protecting others, regardless of the personal cost or controversy that might follow. Today, female snipers serve throughout the American military, their presence no longer remarkable or controversial. They train alongside male counterparts, deploy to combat zones, and perform their duties with the same professional excellence that Maria Rodriguez demonstrated during that crucial engagement in Afghanistan. The legacy of her service extends far beyond individual achievements or awards. She proved that excellence knows no gender, that courage comes in many forms, and that when lives hang in the balance, only competence and character matter. In a world where equality is often debated in abstract terms, Maria Rodriguez wrote her argument in the precise language of long-range marksmanship, one perfectly placed shot at a time.